I'm back. I am back. I am back. I'm with a gentleman from Chi-Town. This is Jeff Cade, everybody. Good morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing well. I'm a little cold, but I'm Chi-Town, D-Town. We're here together, embracing the cold weather.
Now,
Thank you so much.
let's get a little history first. Now, you have family here.
I do have family here. I have a brother, a sister, a host of nieces and nephews that I love very much, and I get down here when I can, usually about twice a year.
And you weren't born here, were you?
Born on the south side of Chicago. I'm a South Sider.
Okay,
South side of Chicago, yes.
the South
The
Side.
South side.
Around here we'd say East Side, but South Side. And you wrote this book, and you have a family history of cancer, correct?
Unfortunately, my father died of pancreatic cancer in 1991, and my mother passed of breast cancer in 1997. So
Now,
there's a little history there.
how old was your dad when he was diagnosed?
Uh, Pancreatic cancer. He was diagnosed, I want to say, in '89, in 1990, and it was at an aggressive stage. And unfortunately, God called him home early in '91. But it was an aggressive form of cancer.
The thing about pancreatic cancer, I think it kind of scares a lot of people because there are very few symptoms. And a lot of times when people go and are diagnosed, they get that sentence.
Yes, it is. It's an aggressive form of cancer, but particularly with my father's situation, he consumed a lot of things, I think, that led or contributed to his demise. More specifically, his
You
favorite.
talked about Coke,
Oh my
which is my
God.
favorite drink. When
Let
I
me-
read that,
I'm going to say to everybody, I am not a nutritionist, I am not here to judge, but I will say, please do everything in moderation. He enjoyed his can of Coca-Cola, have a Coke and a smile. However, he kept a 6 to 12 pack on the regular in the house, and there's no telling what he was doing at work. And I think over time, he consumed it over 30 years. And so obviously we all know that, Coca-Cola and other good brands, they have a lot of sugar content.
yeah.
But more importantly, there's another content or compound that's more aggressive within our bloodstream, and that's called high fructose corn syrup, HFCS.
Right.
And so that's pretty much, a chemical compound that serves no nutritional value or purpose in our bodies. And over time, once consumed, you do have an increased risk of diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, and even cancer.
And they've been taking fructose corn syrup out of a lot of things, but not as aggressively enough.
Not enough. Unfortunately, in decades ago, no one really knew what it was. It is an active ingredient in most food groups, and you're right. The FDA started to get a little bit more aggressive, and with the content on packaging and labeling. But all I could say is, go through your cabinets, go through your household,
Look at the
and look at those
ingredients.
ingredients. Look at those ingredients, and stay away from high fructose corn syrup.
Now, your mother was diagnosed with cancer before your father was, wasn't she?
Yes, in 1987, she was diagnosed, and she fought cancer to the end, and God graced me and our family with having an additional 10 more years with her. With her on her journey, she started really aggressively using the Western medicine, of course, that we all are familiar with.
Right.
But towards the end of her life, she actually had a stroke, and I
Yeah.
believe the stroke kind of it ensued or moved the cancer aggressively again, and that stroke she had when she was driving, and she was 10 years or 9.5 years. It was in remission, And when that stroke happened, it kind of rekindled some things, unfortunately. And then she decided, you know what? I do not want to partake in Western medicine anymore, and I want to go into the
A more
area of
holistic approach, didn't she?
alternative holistic support, yes, including acupuncture
Yes.
and drinking black herbal Chinese tea.
Now, how did the acupuncture work with her? Did it work well with her or what? Because I've known some people who've had it and it's worked well with them.
Great question, Brenda. You know, I remember that due to the stage, how it was, the cancer had resurfaced. It was a little bit more aggressive. It actually kind of helped calm the cancer cells along with the Chinese black herbal tea. It
Really?
really didn't. It kind of calmed them. It didn't. It helped her, but because it was an aggressive. It was an aggressive. It was just very aggressive, and I think the combination of the acupuncture and the herbal tea, it really made a difference.
Wow. So, what does the herbal tea do? I mean, why is this time? Because I might have to go stock up.
Yeah, yeah, you will. You will. You know, there are a lot of teas out there, and pretty much they are powerful antioxidants, and they help flush the toxins out of our bodies. We have black tea, you have green tea, red tea, and white tea, and they really are similar to alkaline water
Really?
in terms of allowing to flush out the toxins in your body.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Now, another thing I really liked about your book was how candid you were about after the passing of your mother, how you kind of sunk into, after a while, you sunk into a depression. And why don't you tell us about that? I mean, I felt your grieving. You really grieved.
I did, and I think all of us need a time and place to grieve. It happened, you know, when I lost my parents, specifically, especially my mother in '97. It put me into a sunken place, if you will, and so there was some times where I was obviously lonely, but I had to push myself out of that situation with courage and perseverance, and just through my book, which is very therapeutic for me, and allowing to hopefully add value and impact to others who have maybe have similar situations. It put me in a place where you know, I was putting a mask on. I was hiding, and I felt as though no one understands, because most of my family and friends at that time, they either had both parents or they had one of them.
Well, when you say you were wearing the mask, um, were you wearing the mask like everything was mellow, everything was fine?
You know, it's odd. I recall, you know, you get your phone calls about how you're doing and the condolences and the sympathies, and I really was like, yeah, I'm doing okay, but I really wasn't, and my voice was not projected as such. I
And so
kind of
people knew that you weren't really doing okay.
no, not really, because I try to do things to keep me busy, and so there was a time when I had some good partners of mine, and we would do events, and we would do wine tastings and jazz events, and that would, you know, keep me kind of busy after work. And when I would get home, it would be so late, I would crash and get ready for the next day. So
Right.
it was just
A
a
cycle.
ongoing cycle routine, but it helped me to kind of keep my mind off of things. Yes.
So how did you start to come out of it?
You know, I guess I can't.
Wait,
Sure.
maybe I'll say this. Because you kind of talk to yourself a little too, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
A
Yes.
lot of us do that.
And sometimes I even answer myself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I answer
You
myself too.
know, yeah, I mean, because sometimes too, with that talk, you're being truthful sometimes. But if you break it down and really say what you got to say, you'll find out how you're really living.
You know, I have to give praise to my Almighty, the supreme bosses of the universe. You know, prayer helps things,
Yeah.
and it really helped my self-esteem and my confidence as I had to go through this journey. And my family was very supportive from Chicago to Detroit to California. But it was different when you're by yourself and you're closed in, when the phone stops ringing, the cars stop coming in, and you just have to go about your daily life. So it's kind of like pulling up your bootstraps and say, you know what, let's move on, let's see it through, and move past, and don't forget the memories. Remember the memories, but you still have to move on with life.
Absolutely. So, what were your first steps coming out of it? Coming out of that kind of funk you were in?
Um, I was in a hole. You're right. I was kind of in that rabbit hole, right? And for me, because I was still I was still in corporate America. I was still doing things in terms of event planning and marketing and promotions. But it came to the point where um, I started doing more reading. I started doing more research as it relates to health and wellness. And I think that was the sidebar. That was the way to me to get one foot out of that hole, and to say, you know what, reading and being honest and being truthful and setting intention and just being honest with yourself. And some of it, as I said before, you grieve. You have to grieve. I miss my parents, very much. Each day there's a void, but at the same time, you have to move on and live on within your own
Yeah, you
journey.
do because you know your parents would want you to. And then you mentioned Jermaine in the book.
Yes,
Yes.
my best half, my best half and partner, who has really helped me a lot. And at the same time, I lost my father-in-law to liver
Yes,
cancer,
yes,
and I was
yes.
within the last 3 or
Some
4
more
years,
cancer.
and it was tough. And so she had to. We all go through our new beginnings, and that was a new beginning for all of us. Even my young son, that was the first time that he really had to adapt to a
To
situation. And to
Papa, he called him
Papa,
Papa.
we called him Papa.
Yes, and it's just you wonder. It's not funny, but it's interesting when you see a little kid who has lost somebody they love, and just helping them through that because that's a first.
It was a first for him, and he didn't know how to respond. He just didn't. He would actually go up to the casket and he would ask those questions and why is he so still and wow, what's going on? And but I think he was 6 or 7, and it was interesting. He was very intrigued, but we had to tell him obviously the truth and what's going on. So we had a lot of support from his our family and godparents and things of that nature. So he misses them very much, just like my wife and I do.
Well, you have here, after you lost your father-in-law, you have three R's: relax, relate, and release.
Yes.
Let's talk about them. What did these help you do? Take that break you needed, or what?
Yeah, I call that the triple R recipe. We all have to relax, relate, and release actually every day. Every day is
We should.
important. We should. And when we know better, we should do better, correct? Right, Brenda?
Yeah, we should.
You know,
Sometimes we go against our better judgment, but we know better, we do better.
exactly. And sometimes when you are going to bed at night, it's good to take a couple deep breaths. It's good to relax and release and understand how your day has gone, but at the same time, get some rest and start off fresh.
A
And
lot of people think that just laying down makes them rest, but that's not it.
no, some of it is, to each its own. Some of it is just closing your eyes and meditating and thanking your Almighty for a great day and being healthy, healed, and whole. And the next day in the morning, you wake up fresh and still have that thankfulness and just being grateful for the next day and being able to breathe and be 6 feet up instead of 6 feet under. And just
Yeah.
being able to acknowledge and understand that you're here another day.
And that's being thankful. That's
Yes,
being
it is.
thankful.
Yes, it
Now,
is.
relating and releasing, and just let's talk about releasing quickly.
Sure, sure. So, releasing is being able to release any type of tension and not holding on to any negative or pessimistic views, what people say, what people do, or even if it's self-damaging, being able to just release anything that's going on throughout your day. And sometimes you just gotta give it to God, let go, and let God and let Him take care of the rest.
And so you really did your research as far as foods and everything that can eat to help you, well, help you not only stay healthy but maybe combat some of the things associated with cancer. And one of them, you talk about vitamin D, and that's something I know my doctor's given me.
Okay.
Vitamin D. They say we don't get enough sun around here.
Well, yeah, as you can tell, I need some, right? Especially being in Chicago, we're about to go through this massive winter. I'm so looking forward to some vitamin D. Sunlight is important. That sunlight is a very good form of vitamin D. Obviously, you have the calcium tablets. I say everything in moderation, but vitamin D is important. Um, any any time I may have some milk, it might be 2%, but I try and get a lot of the vitamin D, whether it be in orange juice or, of course, like you said, the sunlight, because it's so important just to get those rays in your system. Just don't overdo it.
And fruit.
Mm.
But you know, some fruits have a lot of sugar, so you have to do your research on fruit.
You know what? I think back in the days, when they say an apple a day keeps a doctor away, that apple is different this time around, because you have a lot of things going on with GMOs. And so GMO stands for genetically modified organism. And so I'm always trying to include my family in our household. We try always to include organic, natural sources of food free of GMOs in our diet.
How do you find those?
So with GMOs, there's some things to watch out for. GMOs, there's corn, there's soy, there's canola, tomatoes, potatoes, squash, and there's some others that can be genetically modified. So you really have to go. I look at it as going to a healthy food store,
Uh-huh.
going to an area where you're getting your fresh fruits and vegetables, and make sure that that if you can afford that, make sure it's organic.
Right, 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 right. If you can afford it.
If you can afford it, but you know what? It comes down to choices, and it comes down to what you want for your well-being.
Well, you have colonoscopy, and that's something that we should have. They say every 5 years, but then when you get my last one, my doctor said, "See you in 10 years." I said, "Ooh," I got excited, but I'm nervous about it, you know.
I raised my hand. I had mine. I
Uh-huh.
had mine.
We
I had
should
mine.
have those.
Regular checkups are very important. Follow your doctor's orders. And I mentioned this to you because we talked about sunlight, and I want to share something with you. There's an acronym out there, and you might be familiar with it, but I want to share with the audience of SERDS. I call them a doctor, but it's SERDS. SERDS. Well, we mentioned one. That was sunlight. E is for exercise. Got to have your exercise plan or routine. R, we talked about, was actually rest.
Rest.
Got to have rest. S, it also D, I'm sorry, comes down to our diet. Comes to our diet and understanding the nutritional content and labeling on packaging. And S is all about self-esteem and just projecting confidence within yourself.
I was sitting in a parking lot yesterday when my grandson was he was in the barber shop. So I was sitting in the strip mall, just in the parking lot. And there are a couple of restaurants. There one, a soul food restaurant where you could just
Ooh,
pick up your food and so
yes.
forth. And the other, a delicatessen. And I sat there watching,
Choices, huh?
and but I watched, there were so many people who came out with so much extra body weight. No, 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 no. I can't talk. I'm just saying,
Oh.
I was looking, I said, my God, we got to watch what we eat because it does thwart some people were having a hard time walking, but they were full.
You know, everything everything is relatable to moderation.
Moderation, yeah.
excuse me, everything is labeled in moderation because you mentioned something that was very important when you said the delicatessen. So we have to be mindful of the processing of foods. There's a lot of processed foods out there and fillers that really confuse our body and it goes into our bloodstream. Speaking personally, I don't do any type of processed foods. I look for organic, natural sources, free of GMOs first. But second, when I have a taste for, say, turkey sandwich, I'm going to go for the
I
turkey
never have a
sandwich.
taste for a turkey
I'm
sandwich.
just telling you, I go for something that has no nitrates, no
Oh,
nitrates,
Lord.
no nitrates, no nitrates. And people can Google that now because before, people didn't understand what it
Well,
was.
honestly, this week I ate like 4 turkey sandwiches I made, turkey sandwiches. But that's not my real choice. My real choice would be a fried bologna sandwich. But
Oh,
I haven't had one in so
oh,
many years.
oh.
Oh, you said moderation. I think
Yeah,
I'm going to go
moderation.
pick up some
Yeah,
bologna.
you said four though.
If I had 4 turkey sandwiches this week,
This
one
week?
day for
Okay.
lunch,
All right. Okay.
and then one a half a sandwich and
Okay.
stuff. It was
Moderation.
no, oh,
Moderation.
it was turkey.
Yeah, it was turkey. That won't hurt you.
Yeah,
You'll be
well,
good.
yeah. Too much of anything is abuse, though.
It is.
Uh,
I agree.
you also quickly we have steam a little green,
You got to steam that green. You got to steam that green.
and they should be fresh if you can, right?
Yeah, I definitely, personally, I enjoy my spinach. It has vitamin K in it. I enjoy my broccoli, my asparagus, and you can't go wrong with some good old fashioned greens. Mmm. What with turkey though?
Yeah, I know. I know. You have mirror, mirror on the wall, get naked or something. So what are you talking about in there?
So, with that particular piece, um, actually, the last guest, Gwen Moore, had mentioned some things about it. It really, you have to stand in front of the mirror and look for some things that have imperfections. For one example, how about moles? So if you're starting to see certain types of growth with moles, if they're getting bigger, you might want to go to the doctor. Um, you have to get naked. We see each other in the mirror all the time, and if there's some things that, hey, I'm just saying, some imperfections or things that didn't look right the day before that week, you might want to consider saying, what is this?
I know. I come in the mirror. I said, "What happened to my Coca-Cola figure?" Little things like that. But yes, you're true. You're right. We notice things about our body.
That's right. And if things look different, you need to take the advantage and be a strong proponent of yourself, for yourself.
Right, right. Well, Jeff, where can people get your book?
Thank you for asking. It is available on Amazon. Just put the title in Battleground Cancer. But you can also go to my website, www.battlegroundcancer.com. You can also connect with me socially at jeffk360.com, JEFFCADE360.com. That's pretty much my communication hub, which allows people to connect with me socially, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Regarding Facebook, I do have a page that if you like it, it is called Health and Wellness Cancer Prevention. And so I get a lot of engagement with that because it's all about tips and strategies, and people can, be intentional and just talk to me.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, this is Jeff Cade. His beautiful wife, Jermaine, is here also. I thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, really appreciate it. It's been a long time coming, because we
Yes.
had to go back and forth
Yes, we
with
did.
dates and you had surgery and
Yes.
stuff like that. But I wish you a full recovery, great recovery, and you could do all those things
I am
again.
excited and humbled to be here. Thank you so much, Brenda. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
my pleasure.
Thank you.
So we'll be back with Table Talk, and I have Kim Trent on, and I have Daryl Buchanan. Kim is going to talk about the latest controversies at Wayne State University that we're trying to understand what's going on in our town. I'll be back shortly.